we all went on location and we just took our tribes with us and we tried to like settle in and then go do something that was really like evocative and hard.
It's like so rare you can get like 8 people together and no one's circle overlaps. Like everyone has something they do really special.
I jumped at the chance for this. You created this sort of playground where you feel like a trapeze artist.
It's a pretty novel, unique story. I haven't read one quite like it in my career.
Once you decide, you got to jump in and commit. Just go do it.
I think for anyone who's lived in a place, and I grew up in the Midwest, and it wasn't a small town per se, but it was the suburbs of Chicago, and all I wanted to do after a certain age was get out. It didn't fit me anymore, and I just really wanted to go somewhere else. And I know the feeling when you do go back home. It doesn't take more than like 5 minutes before you're back into old patterns and old dynamics, and you can't avoid that with family.
God, here we go.
And so I just felt that was such a universal theme, and I just thought that was such a beautiful thing to explore.
Nothing changes.
You think you can go home?
I think it's always a reflection of where you're at. I'm from New York, so I call it the rotten apple. And then like on a good day, if I go back, I'm like, yeah, you know, it's still all right to walk around the streets a little bit, but it's almost like I need that as some sort of dark matter from which I identify how close I am to the light. The Judge is a classic story about families and all the things you've been avoiding for decades that all kind of come back all at once.
Your room has all Dad's important stuff.
We all have been in that boat, and we're all willing to use it to help tell the story properly.
I think salvation is a theme throughout the movie, and I know that in rehearsal you and I talked about that. And I think I asked you, I said, does Hank know he's in crisis and does he feel he's in crisis? And you said he knows it, but he doesn't feel it, which was like the last thing I expected him to say. And I was just like, wow, that's so honest and truthful. Like, we really do know when things are falling apart.
Right.
And we do everything we can to avoid feeling that.
I don't think he's conscious of much. It's something he has to get through.
Where's the family?
Couldn't make it. School.
Oh, I didn't know that kids in Chicago, they go to school in the summer.
There isn't. They just do. I'm alone.
And what's the story?
There is no story.
Huh.
For the character of Glenn, what are the themes of the movie that are told through this
That
character?
family can break your heart more than anybody.
We need to establish a firm defense.
There's no we here, Henry. This was an accident, period. Any decent lawyer can argue this easily. And by decent, I mean honest. I wish I liked you more.
Once I got into the editing room, you know, you're always learning the dynamic. And one of the things that was so clear was the fact that all of these people in the family were being held captive by the father-son relationship between you and the judge.
Absolutely.
That until this thing was resolved, nobody was going to move forward.
I think there's a lot in this that reminds me of some of the great dramatists, of Miller, you know, of Biff in Salesman, of Long Day's Journey, that kind of family dysfunction that is either healed through the drama or is exacerbated.
Now, we worked out the family dynamic in a rehearsal period that I know for you and for you it had been a while of doing something with that much rehearsal, which I liken much more towards theater. But is there anything you like or don't like about the process or what, you know, gets discovered in it?
Just the idea of improvising in a hotel room with Robert Duvall is like the most insane thing.
But really, we got to know each other as
We got to know each other really well.
Just as much as supposedly our character.
Yeah.
As people, we got to know each other.
So I think that the rehearsal process is great because we just simply get to act more.
Who did this? Give me an answer.
What do you think? Who drove last? We saw you.
Hey, watch your mouth. Watch your mouth. Is that okay? I want to.
Yeah, please.
He says something.
Yeah.
Watch your mouth. 'Cause they woke me up, you know, everything.
Yeah.
Great.
With the car blazing.
Yeah.
No one touches
Glenn, where are you boys?
Biggest mistake directors make that I notice is they exhaust you and then they film you. It's not about rehearsal, it's about the right kind of rehearsal and the right amount. And that's where I think that was one of your great triumphs, because we actually went into it going, oh, he's not trying to show us that he's in control. He's trying to give it over to us and say he's going to provide an environment where he's going to foster us being the best we can be.
And also, you know, you get comfortable with you get comfortable with the director that way too. It's like you're on trial. You know, it's like, that's it. Like you have these 2 days to be the guy that you are.
I know for me, having that container, that sort of safe container that you gave us and the trust that you gave us, that dynamic was there. You know, remember the workshops that we did? Robert we'd go see a movie every Sunday, and then that week we'd do like a zombie workshop.
The pirate workshop.
The cowboy workshop. So all of that went into the work.
Yeah.
All of that.
Yeah,
the pirate stuff is pretty intense.
Very strong.
One night it got pretty intense.
You're gonna sign that vehicle over to her.
This ain't fair. How
One more word. Go on. Look around you. You're standing in one of the last great cathedrals in this country, built on the premise that you and you alone are responsible for the consequences of your actions.
We were all excited to make this movie with you, Bobby. I know everybody here had some sort of history of
Don't pin it on me.
I'm putting it on you.
Don't put it all on me.
So, I just like
the ensemble deal. Come on, man. Just because the name's the judge, I mean, you know.
Just because you're the title character, I mean, it's
judge.
This false humility is really working. Here's what I want to say. I'll kick it off. You watch Bullet, and you're in it for 12 seconds, and you go, who is that guy? I want to get in the cab and follow him around. Right. There's no difference in all the great Duvall roles. There's such a full breadth of power and mastery, and yet not self-conscious. It's not a lot of ego. It's not a lot of tricks. It's always what I've heard you say ever since, talking and listening, listening and talking. From the minute we started shooting, all he ever said was no results, process. And it's like we all know that, but then we get interested in the results because there's only so many hours in a day.
I think the young actors are better than ever. I think the best of the best directors are better than ever. I once worked with a director in the old days that said, when I say action, tense up, goddammit. I've always been a late bloomer. And some of my work in my early days, I've tried to forget. I think I became, ever since The Godfather, those guys clicked in, and I began to click in more 10 years after that. So I've always kind of been a late bloomer, you know, and hopefully I'm still blooming.
Here, let's watch the first scene from the first day of shooting.
The preliminary hearing's set for next Friday. Wow, we're in a bit of a pickle.
It's pretty straightforward, CP. It was dark.
Hold up.
What'd you say your strong suit is? Old furniture or law? Quick.
Law.
Law school?
Yes.
Yes, you're familiar with the concept, or yes, you attended one?
Sit down.
Why were you so hard on Dax, David?
It was day one of shooting. I threw you in front of two titans of acting and just kind of blasted it out. What was it like for you, man? That's like the first scene you shot.
It was a really, really easy role to play because all I had to do was acknowledge the real life dynamic, which is, so I'm the crafty lawyer, this is the best lawyer in the world. He comes in flashy and I'm kind of in awe of him, and in real life, we have the same dynamic. I'm a bumpkin and he's Iron Man. But I realized now I was burying my actual reverie for both of them. It wasn't until we saw the movie a couple days ago, that's the first time I acknowledged I was talking to Robert Duvall and Robert Downey in real life in a movie, and at that moment there was a 12-year-old Dax. I was like, oh my God, I'm talking to Tom from The Godfather and the prick from Weird Science. It's happening.
When we started shooting that scene, my heart was pounding inside my chest.
Really?
Because it was the first day.
And what do you do with fear? What's the relationship to fear?
You trust that wherever the camera is, if the guy who's framing the shot does you a solid and they don't go in close on that little piece of fabric that's undulating, that we are creating an illusion. And the other thing too is sometimes it's there and sometimes it's not. So you expect the most dire circumstances of self-consciousness, and then if you're spared, hey, that's a freebie. Some people say you should never use the first day of shooting. You should just blow a bunch of film and let it get done, but you never know.
Yeah.
I think it's great, and I'm so happy that on Judge, we came out of the box with Dax with 2.5 pages of dialogue, and everybody got their sea legs, and we all kind of figured out how we wanted to work together.
I should also say that Robert Duvall was so nice to me, and there was one scene in the courtroom where I had my real-life coffee cup. I was drinking.
Non-props?
Yes. And I ruined a 9-minute take because right between Duvall and I was like a crafty coffee cup. And Dapkin came over and he goes, "This was not on the table." And you look at me and you go, "The coffee cup on the table." And I was like, I got it all. It was weird. Like, normally I've been so embarrassed, but I just loved that you got pissed at me. And I felt like this makes the whole experience.
Sam.
Yeah, you kept your hair. Like sawing sawdust, all that worry for nothing.
Here's what I need to know. Where did, like Sawn Sawdust, all that worry for nothing come from?
She's a country gal. She knows about sawdust. She chops her own wood. She grows her own kale. She's like the original hipster, man. She's had deer tattoos before anybody else.
Right.
You know? You know, I look at Sam, I just dug her. I love this chick. I work from the outside in. I want to figure out how a character moves through space. What is that gate? And that was like the key for me with Sam. It's like, okay, well, she's got some souls, you know? She's a hip kind of a gal. Like, there's got to be something anchored and heavy and lithe, smooth. She's a cowgirl at heart. Whatever had or hadn't happened in the past, I was going to be the hero of my own story. I think from the start, she was like a really simple melody. I meet you, and the arpeggios run. It's good.
We're in.
I'm pretty shy by nature. I've had to work towards masking that. And you're gregarious, you're chatty, and I'm a better listener. I mean, in that way, it works out really well. Because there's so much play, and he's so playful. Then you have to be receptive to that, because that is chemistry. It's the nuance of performance is throwing curveballs and jumping on it, and that give and take, that dueling. And it is a skill to be honed.
And not resting on those laurels either. You know, I always say, beware the great read. The fact that after that makeout scene, you know, you weren't trying to track me down and text me and, you know what I mean, linger outside places you thought I might be, I think it was an act of courage.
That was the hardest scene for me. Only because your beautiful wife is 3 feet away from me, in front of a screen.
And you're having a ball.
Watching multiple takes.
That's us. That's our family.
It is.
Turn it off.
All right, speed it up, man. Let's go, let's go.
Give him a chance.
Dale.
You all come from very different backgrounds. Meisner, Strasberg, Method, I don't know what, Alley Cat.
The alley cat approach.
When you have a scene like this, how do you approach it? How do you execute it?
Just get mad. Just do it. I don't think you can intellectualize where you came from or whatever. Try to stay as close to your person as you can. Your own temperament, you know, let that take over, your own temperament.
Told you everything I knew! You decided I should
There was an improvisational thing in that scene, even though there were lines. There was an improvisational thing underneath that existed besides the lines.
Well, you don't get in your own way. Did you ever get in your own way?
Of course. Everybody does. Try not to, but, you know.
From the time the scene starts, the whole scene is about not feeling it, but sitting on a feeling that's trying to be felt that I won't let myself feel. But to me, when you kick over the projector, I can't control what I'm trying to sit on anymore because of what you did to him.
I can get away with anything I can get away with because I'm the head honcho.
Yes.
And I overstepped it when I got my way with him, and then you stepped in because, justifiably so, because I overstepped my being the guy.
And you never do anything like that to him, so you're out of line. So I now feel it's okay for me to confront you, and I have to trust that that's going to inform what happens.
That's it. I'm so sick of you. I'm tired of the way you decide how the world is gonna run. What, are you gonna parcel out who gets to say and do what and when you say it?
I decide in this house, you can go decide in your house.
No, I can't. Because I'm stuck in purgatory with a client who's doing everything in his power to be found guilty. Because you held out on me.
I told you everything I knew.
Wrong! You told me everything you started.
No, guys, come on! Get out of my way! Get out of my way!
Come out! Guys! Get down here, you guys!
To me, this scene is the blasting cap to our scene that the judge wins and represents a new low for Hank. And I know that for you, Mr. Strong, this was a huge moment. More than anybody, you were on fire with your process.
For my character, for Dale, the film that's in this projector and the projector itself is tantamount to his heart. So it's as if his heart is being trampled and broken, because it's his family. These movies are all he has of our lives earlier, when there was still harmony and when our mother was still here. And so that day, I carried around some objects with me. I went to the town I grew up in. I got a rock from this stream I used to go to with my mother. I had this one picture of my mother holding me up when I was a baby. I don't have a lot of pictures
I witnessed
from my childhood.
When he did it,
And this is my only copy. Because we were in the scene for 2 days. And so we didn't get to the moment that covered my reaction until the second day.
Yes.
And I felt like, fuck, I'm depleted. And this happened to me a lot in the film. I've had the experience as authentically as it's going to happen, but there wasn't a camera on me.
Right.
So when you guys started doing sound speed and everything, and I kind of just took some space from everyone, and I took the picture out of my mom, and I ripped it in half, because it's the only one I had, and I felt like that's what he's doing with the film in the projector. And I knew something was going to happen to me, and something did start happening to me. And I think on that take, the projector got caught on a wire, which is just the sort of vicissitudes of filmmaking. But there was something came out of me.
It's the act of making that sacrifice. It's the act of doing that little bit of shamanistic offering, you know?
Yeah, it felt like something.
And
Film
also
is
the
new
fact
to
that
me.
you're not the one that's supposed to judge whether it's working or not.
Right.
You're the one that's in the process.
But that's hard. I'm always trying to control it. I'm always watching it, and I'm trying to knock myself
Yeah, which
out
is
of that.
fine, because that's your deal. But
Yeah.
the point is that the next take is going to be just as good for reasons that you could never think of.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah.
So what do you remember about how you
That
were...
scene?
Yeah.
I knew it was going to be a tough scene, and I knew that if I just stayed in the area that I was feeling real, the most real, putting my arm around my film wife, seeing my sons, listening to his voice and him breathe during the scene, and occasionally, you know, we would glance at each other occasionally. That's what took me through the scene, and just letting that feeling that I've had for a day just be that feeling, you know, be it.
You don't know what my life is like, okay? Mom is gone, all right? And Dad is... Okay, don't pat me. I'm the big brother here. You don't pat me.
I want to talk about Glenn, because I have never seen the hero of a family been played with a more miserable disdain in my life. And I also think the fact that he's a guy who had this imagined future and that it was cut short, and he has stayed home and he's made purgatory his home. He has accepted his lot in life, but there's something underneath it that is so broken and so pissed off.
He was tough, but oh, come on, it wasn't that bad. Remember fishing?
Lake house.
Yeah.
That's right. He used to tell us all to be quiet.
You're
scaring the fish away.
I was thinking, Vince, the very first day you came in and you insisted, or rather you suggested, that your first interaction with your brother in decades is that you talk about a parking spot.
Where'd you park? I'm on the street. I parked up. Tried to get a space in the big lot. I had to go around.
And that, to me, is that thing of obscure what's going on and be focused on something that is generic. And that means it's so important to him.
Every day I would go in, and I would make sure that I was completely open the whole time, so that if he made me laugh, I could either make choose to laugh or cry on the spot immediately. If he did something that was so cute you wanted to hug him, I could laugh or cry immediately. My deal was to be like that in every scene.
I just wanted to, have a moment before you run out,
Just gonna get some air.
No, but you disappear. I just want to...
There was a moment, you guys were hugging each other and you were leaving the diner. And we were still kind of figuring it out and getting our sea legs. And you said, Robert has to go for his turnaround. I said, couldn't we cover Dale seeing them hug, because it's the moment for him that it's all he's ever wanted, is to see these two heal.
Yeah.
To see the family that is so fractured, that has been on these fault lines for so long, finally that rift be mended. And they said, sorry, we gotta go, and you were gonna let me watch them on a monitor or something. And then he got wind of it, that I had asked, and you stayed, and you came back, and you guys both stayed, and you did it off camera. And I just...
It was so nice of us.
For me, that was like...
Well, what you did was you did the moment that he was looking for.
Yeah.
There was
we did it
something-
for him.
Yeah.
I remember
By the way,
exactly.
it made a difference.
Last call, boys.
Whoa, you're done.
David brought this idea to Susan, and Susan helped us all bring it into fruition, and here we are a couple years later, 3 guys who at this point played brothers but feel like brothers. Like, I know I will know you guys for the rest of my life.
Right.
Folks, thanks for joining us. I'm joined here by Hollywood
You
Screen.
just said joined twice in your first sentence. You want to give that one
I like
more
it.
go?
Let's go again. In a cast of standouts, one actor shines particularly bright, and he goes by the name of Vincent D'Onofrio. I'd like to thank you. I'm auditioning to replace Charlie Rose. He's getting a little long in the tooth.
Right.
And I thought, let's do a mashup of Charlie Rose and This Old House.
Okay.
So I'll do an interview with someone like yourself, and then I'll pop back here and put in some new cabinetry. How did you become aware of the film The Judge? How did the script find you?
I heard about it through my agent, and
So you have representation.
I have representation, yeah.
Right. Well, did you model this role after anybody? Is there any?
I don't know who you're talking to when you look
Me
right
either.
down the barrel.
Well, presumably my folks will be watching this. Look who I'm interviewing. So great. My mom and dad will get a copy of this. They'll check that out. Are you gonna gift this to anyone?
Now, when you're doing that, I help you, or I just sit here and wait for you?
Ideally, yes. If you would man the toolbox, I'd call out Crescent Wrench.
My cousin, speaking of toolboxes, my cousin used to call me a tool. I don't know where he came up with that. But
Oh, he
called me
did.
a tool.
He did.
Yeah.
What does he do now, your cousin?
He's in jail.
So your agent gave you the script, great. Are we done? There's an actor in this film who's doing some very exciting work, and his name is Jeremy Strong. And
Would you mind pronouncing Jeremy one more time in a way that people who aren't from Michigan will understand?
There's an actor in this film, Mr. Strong. Have you done Charlie Rose?
I have done Charlie Rose, actually, yes. The great thing about it is he actually they don't wire you for his show. They actually have a guy, 2 guys, underneath the thing with the boom microphones, underneath the table, shooting up at you. And it was really funny. For just a minute one day, I looked down and it looked like I had a giant black penis. Just for a second, I was like really happy for a second.
Exciting, isn't it?
Just for a moment, I thought, this is amazing.
Right. And thanks, Warner Brothers, for letting us sit down and represent the company.
I played Glenn.
And he works at something, some blue collar, I think at a tire store.
My guy?
Yeah.
I thought he was a pilot. I thought I was a pilot.
But I think
Watch
it's bread
this,
and
watch
butter.
this, watch this. Just hang on a second, watch this.
Okay.
My flight leaves in about 10 minutes. I'll have to drive the plane.
You've done a lot of research, clearly, for this role as a pilot.
No, watch this, watch this. Just watch.
Feel free to give me a line to set you up.
Say, when you're ready, when you feel it, say, excuse me. Watch, ready? Go.
Excuse me, sir? Excuse me. Sir? Do you know what gate?
Got a flight in 10 minutes.
Oh, where are you flying? Did you model this character after anyone that's real or living, or it could be described as alive?
Well, honestly, when I used to go frogging in the pond, it was.
I'll tell you why I'm looking this way. I just realized why.
Good.
Because there's no camera over here, so every now and then I just check in with everyone, just to let them know who's talking. Because mostly I think you're just getting a harsh profile to the back of my head, but this isn't about me. I'm here to learn more about you and your role. Okay. Leapfrogging.
There was a Honda Z50.
So Robert Downey, how much of a draw was he to joining the movie?
A big draw. I mean, I've been a fan of Robert since I was a kid. I guess.
Did you do anything weird to kind of establish a relationship that would come across as brotherly?
What are you trying to say?
Did you guys go horseback riding or spend time camping or anything like that?
I've just never been interviewed like this before. It's just amazing, really, how much you really know.
You're playing a lawyer in this film, correct?
Okay.
Right. And you did a lot of research. Now I heard that you tried some cases under an alias.
I lost 16 cases in 4 days, which is
That's
not
a
easy
record,
to do.
by the way. You can look that up. Some of these questions are going to be rhetorical on my end.
Gotcha.
I know you guys went camping on horseback.
Yeah, so we went for about 81 days.
That's a long camping trip. You put Ritter in 2 movies or more? Bad Santa.
What? I'm sorry?
Bad Santa.
Yes, I was in Bad Santa.
And it was written, it's a neat story, I understand it is to be a neat story about the guy who eventually wrote the script that we are shooting.
Yes, very interesting story. But that's not what the movie's about.
It's not about Bill?
No.
Really?
Yes.
I'm not playing Bill
You're not playing Bill Dubuque. Do you want to maybe try that reaction one more time about your surprise about hearing that it's not about Bill? So if you want to look down the barrel, I'll remind you.
That's great.
It's not actually about Bill.
Is it safe to say that this camping trip was very similar to Theodore Roosevelt's hunting trip down in Africa? That's a yes. Now, there's a lot of legend and lore surrounding your career. It's a very celebrated career. You're what's known as an actor's actor. Is it true you turned down the title role in E.T.? What other things? My wife is in love with you.
Oh, I know. Believe me. I can't.
That's uncomfortable.
I can't get the girl to leave me alone.
Right?
And you know what? In the beginning, I thought it was cute.
Right.
You know?
Sure.
And I saw that
she's young and
right, and she was being silly. She's visiting our set, and I could see that you were okay with it. I mean, you thought it was funny and everything like that. Lately, it's gone really dark.
It has.
Yeah.
When you've gone into your trailer and she's there.
It's kind of uncomfortable, and I know we're talking to the public right now and having a little fun, but we got to talk.
You and I.
We have to talk.
These kinds of films don't get made very often.
Yeah.
And it is nice to be able to do that.
It really is
We
rare.
don't have any chases or gunfights, and there's nothing like that.
You
It's
haven't
just
read the
about
new pages.
Is there gunfights? Who has the gun?
You get in a car chase that at some point veers into a gun factory. Yes. Guns are going off scattywampus at will. Yes. So at some point they crash into a big pile of metal which falls on Robert, and he stands up, and the metal has formed a bit of a suit around him.
And he wins, right?
Oh, he wins big time. Thing's got missiles and so cool. Yeah, it's gonna be awesome. It's called Iron Man the Judgment Day. Iron Man the Judgment Day. This is weird as hell, right?
Kind of sitting
This is
there. I mean, maybe
uncomfortable.
sorry, I'm not
Okay.
supposed to say that.
Are you allowed to call Robert because I have to call him Mr. Downey?
I'm calling.
Just as a side note.
I just call him Junior, and then I call Duval Senior.
Oh.
It's a shorthand. Do you have a favorite Duval movie
Just for a little camping trip.
from your childhood?
Called him Downey for the whole 81 days.
Yeah, we got there in 3 days at Marriott Courtyard.
The whole junior thing right away.
Hopped right in.
I'm just going to throw 16 questions at you. Does CP Kennedy understand the magnitude of the case he is now co-defending?
He has no idea.
If CP Kennedy could time travel, where would he go and why?
1984 for the release of the Camaro Z28.
His second biggest regret in life, besides not attending his sister's funeral, is?
Trying to make his uncle laugh by cutting off 3 of his toes.
The end result of that near catastrophe
Was being disinvited to the family 3-legged race in Gary, Indiana.
We're done. I just almost farted.